All right, the number one question we get about pruning in the garden is, how do I cut back my hydrangeas? Do I cut them back in the fall, winter, spring? The answer is yes, and it depends on the type you have. So we're going to start off with this batch. I'm actually using my neighbor's hydrangeas. This is hydrangea macrophylla, the big leaf hydrangea. These are the ones that we love that are blue and pink depending on the soil conditions, and they give us great midsummer flowers. Most of these flower on the previous season's growth. So the buds that would be opening and flowering this year actually were set last year. So if you cut these to the ground this time of the year, all you get is a great big foliage plant, which is not great because this plant actually wilts in the summer anyway. So really what you want is the flowers. So this one, if you're doing any pruning this time of the year, all you're really going to do, snip off the old flower heads right at the very tip and cut as little of the branch as possible, because those buds are coming up from the bottom. There are some varieties of the big leaf hydrangea that do rebloom, so they also bloom on new growth. So it's really important is to know which variety. Most of them flower on last year's growth, so you don't want to prune them this time of the year. You want to just leave them alone and just clean up the flower heads. If you have endless summer or one of them related varieties that do flower on new growth also, then you can actually cut them back hard this time of the year and they'll still bloom, but they'll bloom a little bit later. So this one you really need to know what variety you have. So we're going to go over to the other plant, go back into my own garden. This is Hydrangea arborescens, the smooth hydrangea. This is actually a Kentucky native. You can find this in the woods all over Kentucky. This is a variety named Annabelle that has big sterile blooms in white. There are a couple pink varieties out on the market of this, but the white is the most typical and the most common. These flower entirely on new season's growth. So what you do with these is you cut them back hard right before they start putting out new growth in the spring. And all I do is wear glasses. It's easy to get poked in the eye when you do this. Take pruners and cut it back, just leaving stubs up, 12 or 18 inches. There's really nothing magic to it. If you just keep cutting, I've actually seen people do this with electric head shears. You can do it with loppers that give you a longer reach, so that works well. And you can see there's really not a whole lot to it. The more you cut them back, the more vigorous growth you'll get in the spring when it starts to regrow, and the better blooms you'll get. If you don't cut this back, they'll be fine. They'll grow fine and they'll flower, but you'll get a larger plant. You'll get more flowers, but smaller ones. So if you like those nice big Annabelle white hydrangea flowers, best thing to do is come in right now, give them a good haircut. And it doesn't take very long at all. Last few snips. And you can see I'm not worrying a whole lot about where these cuts get placed. When you're pruning trees and pruning off large branches, you definitely want to take a whole lot more care with these. You're probably going to cut these branches off next year anyway. So it really doesn't require that you pay too much attention to where you place those cuts. Just cut the whole thing back. And that's it. What did that take? About a minute? So there's your smooth hydrangea. Blooms on new growth, so you can cut it right back to the ground. That's about it for today.